When I was about 18 years old, I had a job for a little bit at a machine shop. And one of my jobs as an apprentice was to keep the area clean and free of clutter, just to make sure the environment was safe to work in. Well, one day as I was trying to climb up that ladder, I was tasked with deburring some metal parts. So I take these metal parts over to where the bench grinder is. Well, dumb me, I didn't clean the area behind the bench grinder and it was full of metal dust. So when I got to grinding those parts and I started shooting out sparks, all that dust that was behind the metal, behind the bench grinder, just burst into flame and just ran up the wall. Luckily, we had a fire extinguisher nearby and I was able to put it out fairly quickly. But the point of that is, that was a life lesson. That was a lesson that I later on carried into survival. Basically, understanding how fire worked. So from there, I was just like, well, okay, if I was able to catch that steel, those dust particles on fire, well then it would stand the reason when I'm out in the wilderness, in order to get a fire quickly and efficiently, it would probably be a lot better if I was able to take down a piece of wood down to its finest particles. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to show you a one-stick fire method. How to basically take a big piece of wood with a ferro rod and just a pocket knife and get a fire going. The three things I always carry with me is a piece of fat wood, my EDC, and a means to start a fire by spark. The knife happens to be a Pacific Salt, fully serrated with H1 steel. Now for my EDCs, I prefer a fully serrated blade for the various jobs that I do that I tend to come across most often. My ferrocerium has a block of magnesium that rarely gets used, but I use this quite often. And then a piece of fat wood, and we all know the virtues of fat wood. So to do this efficiently, what I like to do is create a fuzz stick, and a fuzz stick is different than a feather stick. A feather stick is going to take your knife and create these long standing fibers that just roll down as you carve down. That's a feather stick. A fuzz stick is different. What a fuzz stick essentially does is it breaks that to even a finer material. So just to show contrast, I'm going to go to this edge right here. I'll use the back of my knife always. I never use the edge. I never use the edge. I will always use the back of the knife. This one happens to be very well suited for this job. Nice square edges, pretty sharp on the corners, and you just take the back of the knife and you start going, rubbing on the back of the stick. Now I happen to be using fat wood for this, but again, any piece of wood will work. So what we have here is the shavings from the feather stick, and here is the fuzz from the fuzz stick. So you can see the difference, how much finer this is compared to this. So I'm just going to push that off into a pile. I'll do a little bit more just so we have a nice bigger pile, because more fire is more better. Yeah, I know I use more better. Okay, so then we're going to put that in a little pile. Put that off to the side. I'm going to take my ferro rod. I'm going to take the spine of my knife. Again, I never use the edge. Hold it 90 degrees to the ferro rod, and I'm going to push down. Now I understand that some people like to hold the knife in place and pull up, and that works. But my theory is this gap where you pull up, this gap that still remains, is enough of a gap to start cooling down those sparks. So the reasoning is, if I push down, this final bit of contact that I have with the ferro rod down here is going to create my last sparks, which puts it closer to the tinder. In essence, sending a hot shower of sparks down to my tinder and effectively mitigating the cooling effect. So I'm going to take that, and there you go.